Yo, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? This is Edward Williams, founder and creator of Health Body Necessary. Y'all do me a favor and type 5 in the chat. Let me know if y'all can see me and hear me all right. Oh, they didn't put my topic on there. Type 5. Come on in. Come on in. Type 5. Type 5. Let me know if you can see me and hear me just fine. And also, do me a favor. Share this video for me if you don't mind. If you don't mind, share this video for me. So I want to get on here and talk about a couple of things with everybody. Morning. Who's saying good morning? Where are you at? Singing Anita. Where are you located? Tiffany, what's going on? Singing Anita, what's going on? Lamar, what's going on? James, what's going on? Junie, what's going on? Lenny, what's going on? Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. So once again, for those who don't know, my name is Edward Williams. I'm the founder and creator of Health Body Necessary. And our mission is to aggressively inspire and radically improve the health conditions of our community by any means necessary. That has been the mission before coronavirus. That'll be the mission after coronavirus because that's what we're here for, okay? So regardless of a lot of the things you're seeing right now, understand when it comes to this conversation about black health, we have been promoting the improvement about this for the past 6 years. When it comes to what we need to do to improve it, we've been talking about this for the past 6 years. And also when it comes to why you cannot trust these folks, why you cannot trust this system, we've been talking this talk for the past 6 years. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a good conversation about why medications don't work, however fasting does. Now, when I'm talking about medications don't work, we're specifically talking about what they call lifestyle conditions, preventable conditions, chronic conditions. This is going to be the high blood pressure. This is going to be the type 2 diabetes. This is going to be the pre-diabetes. This is going to be obesity, high cholesterol, also PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. These are the conditions that I'm specifically talking about. And at the end of this, I'll tell you what common thread they all have in common. Most of you who know my work, you already know what I'm going to talk about. But the medications that many of you are taking for these conditions, they simply don't work. And it's not just me saying this, science says this. So you all know that I'm always talking about a website called the NNT.com. The NNT stands for the number needed to treat. This is a website that you should check out, but you should make sure that if you're going to read through that information, don't read through it just to scare yourself. You should read through it to empower yourself and also take actions. And the actions that you can take will be the actions I'm telling you about right now. So when we're talking about medications don't work, the reason why people believe that these medications work and that they take them, whether they take them religiously or they take them here and there, but the reason why people are taking these medications is because they've been sold this lie. They've been sold this lie that their medications will work. They've been sold this lie that by you having normal ranges, by you having a blood pressure under 120/70, by you having a blood sugar under 100 while fasting and below 120 after a meal, by you having a cholesterol level that's right there, by you having a certain body mass index, you've been sold this lie that you having that equals health. That's the lie you've been sold. Without putting anything into context about how you get to that level, you can find yourself in the worst condition. And here's what I mean. So when we look at something like blood pressure medication, let's say somebody has a blood pressure of 180/100. Now, you've been told that that is a high blood pressure. And guess what? I agree with that. You have been told that that high blood pressure is a disease. I don't agree with that. I tell you that it's a medical condition because that's exactly what it is. You've been told that you need to lower that blood pressure because it can progress to the point where it actually causes other issues or it can kill you. I agree with that as well. Now, you've been told that you need to take these medications, which will chemically alter the physiology of your body. Some of these medications will make you excrete excess water, excess fluid. Some of these medications will block certain receptors in your body, such as a beta blocker. By blocking this receptor, this is going to now slow down the heart rate or decrease the contractility. Some of these medications will inhibit enzymes in your body that will also increase your blood pressure. So on that side, you have multiple ways that the medications, or multiple mechanisms of actions that the medications will work. When it comes to blood sugar or type 2 diabetes, you have medications that will slow down the absorption of the glucose that you're taking in. You have medications that will force your pancreas to secrete more insulin. And then you have medications that will they're just insulin. You injecting insulin. And so the list goes on and on and on. These folks have convinced you that if you do these things and you get that blood pressure down into that tight little range, 120/70, you are now considered to be healthy. If you get that fasting blood sugar down to 100, or if you get that A1C down just lower, below the 6.2, below the 5.8, below the 5.6, you're going to be healthy. However, you're not going to get those numbers with medications. You're just not. But you've been told this over and over. If you take this statin medication that gets your cholesterol down, you've been told that just by doing those things, you're going to be healthy. Now, they might throw in, all right, eat more too. They might throw in, eat more frequently. They might throw in, you should exercise. But don't expect these folks to tell you exactly what to eat or how to exercise, because let's keep it real. Many of these providers are also having their own health issues as well too. And that's not to throw any shade, or that's not to knock, but I think you should question when you and your doctor has the same condition. I think you should question. I think there's a healthy level of questioning that needs to go in place when you and your doctor are both diabetic and both taking the same medications. I don't know if this doctor can tell you how to get off the medications, because in my opinion, their views are compromised. So nonetheless, you've been sold this idea that getting your numbers back into quote unquote healthy range, that you will now be healthier. However, when we look at the actual studies, when we look at the actual results, when we look at all of these, something like the Accord, the Advanced study, the Accord study, the VDAT study, when we look at these studies, these trials, we don't find that to be the truth. We don't see people being treated with medications having better outcomes than people who are not being treated with medications. We don't see that to be the truth. Once again, check out the nnt.com. The best thing you can do is watch the video that I have on YouTube. I also have it on this page right here. It's called Better Medications or Better Educations. And then I also have another video called The Marketing of Disease. You should check out those two videos, because that's what I consider to be health defense. It's very important that you understand how these medications work. It's very important to understand, are you actually getting healthy? Because when we think about it, the only reason you're taking these medications in the first place is because you don't want to have the stroke. You don't want to have the heart attack. You don't want to have the amputation. You don't want to have the kidney failure. You don't want to have the gangrene. Like, these are the only reasons why you're taking these medications. So you are assuming that if the doctor is giving you medications and your numbers are now looking better, you're assuming that, yo, we good money. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be completely fine. The blindness won't happen to me. The neuropathy won't happen to me. The kidney failure won't happen to me because I am on medications. That's not the truth. People are still having the same rate of the complications if they weren't actually taking any medications. I know this is not nice to hear. I know this is not, warming to hear, but it is the truth. Once again, it's not me saying it. It's actual science saying it. However, most of your practitioners have no idea about what these medications are doing. Now, the practitioners that have been doing this for a long time, yeah, they'll tell you these medications have some very nasty side effects. But their solution for these nasty side effects is to give you another medication that doesn't have such a bad side effect, or it's not as bad as that side effect. And so it's a very vicious game. It's a very vicious cycle that many of us are involved in, unfortunately. So I agree that if the condition progresses, complications are going to come. I agree that if the complications come, there's a higher chance that you will die. I agree that having these conditions make you more vulnerable, such as what we're seeing right now with this whole COVID-19. I don't even know if I can say that on live anymore. But I agree that when a condition like the COVID-19 or something like the flu, influenza, that you are more vulnerable. But you're more vulnerable on a daily basis. Before coronavirus, after coronavirus, during coronavirus, if you have any of those conditions, you are vulnerable in general. And so people should have already known this. However, I take a hard stance that your practitioners have failed you. If all you got was a prescription and medications and sent out the door with no education as far as what you need to do to improve or reverse this condition, you've been failed. They failed you. They failed you. Not the practitioner themselves, but the whole entire system. The whole entire system, because they set the guidelines, they set the protocols. These folks sit on these panels where they will now decide what is considered to be a healthy blood pressure. They sit on these panels and they lower the blood pressure requirements. At the same time, like Martin Luther King always says, at the same time, they also have financial ties with the medications you will now have to be prescribed to actually lower that blood pressure. So you would, moral problems, implications? Yes, definitely. So it's criminal at best. Now, when we talk about what does actually work, well, let's talk about why these medications don't work. The medications don't work because they never address the problem. When it comes to the high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, well, cholesterol is a little different, but obesity, PCOS, when it comes to these issues, we have to understand that these are lifestyle conditions, meaning that these problems, these conditions only came to be because of our lifestyle, because of the eating, the lack of healthy foods, the lack of movement, the lack of sunshine, the lack of fresh water, the lack of fresh air. These are conditions that come to be because of our lifestyle. Now, the reason why this is such a hard point to get across to everyone is because we have been sold the lie, and we have also internalized this lie that it runs in our families. This is like, that is one of, in my 6 years of practice, I know I look young, in my 6 years of practice, that has been the biggest hurdle, the biggest obstacle to deal with. That has been the biggest one. Because it is like, it is a curse that has been waved over our community that we can't seem to shake. This idea that since my mom had high blood pressure, my dad had high blood pressure, the doctor says I'm going to have high blood pressure too. It runs in my family. Type 2 diabetes, it runs in my family. You have to understand that when you have that mindset and when you're saying that, that is an affirmation. You are affirming that this disease belongs to you when it doesn't. It does not belong to you. You are affirming that the type 2 diabetes is going to eventually come. You're literally putting a spell over you by claiming that it's going to happen to you. What you need to understand is that the reason why your mom and your dad had type 2 diabetes is because they may not have been aware of the food that they're eating, that the very foods that they were eating is actually increasing their levels of glucose, which is increasing their levels of insulin. And by doing this multiple times a day, eventually you're going to have insulin resistance. After that insulin resistance begins, over time, that insulin resistance is going to increase to the point where it becomes type 2 diabetes. Along with the lack of movement, along with the lack of sleep, along with the high stress, along with the lack of vitamin D, along with the dirty water and the dirty air, type 2 diabetes is on its way. In fact, type 2 diabetes won't even be the biggest concern. It's the insulin resistance that's the biggest concern. And so that's the truth. I challenge, because I don't want to talk to those folks. I'm talking to you all. Those folks from now on, they have to now read my books, have to read Medical Apartheid. The medical practitioners who want to debate, I spent the first 2 to 3 years debating with medical practitioners who will send me a baseline article or a WebMD about why high blood pressure is genetic and why it is a disease. And then when I send them back something debunking what they're saying, no response. They don't even have the audacity or the testicular fortitude to engage into an actual back and forth, a discussion or a debate. So I'm done with those folks. Plus, as far as I'm concerned, that's also strategy. That's warfare. That's also a strategy. It's get me to spin my wheels in one direction. So forward march. I'm only dealing with the people now. Now, what you all have to now question is, start from the basics. What is blood pressure? What is blood pressure? What is it? Can anybody tell me what blood pressure is? Anybody tell me what blood pressure is? Can anybody tell me what blood sugar is? Anybody? Anybody tell me what blood pressure and blood sugar is? Do these things serve any function at all in our body? Do they have any purpose in our body whatsoever? We're going to walk through this thing. We're going to do some teaching tonight. blood sugar, blood pressure, is there a purpose? Is there a function? And I know it's a lot to type. So while y'all typing, while y'all working on it, what you need to understand is that you have trillions of cells in your body. Trillions. Trillions. That's with a T. Okay? Each one of those cells is like a house with a family in it. And as you know, each house is like a little community. Each house is a community. Your family is your community. Yes, you have your community outside the house and you have your community outside the neighborhood. But it is a community nonetheless. And so those trillions of cells, inside each cell, that cell has many working parts. And that cell, in order for those working parts to run and to operate, it has needs. In the case of a cell, some of those needs could be something such as oxygen, such as nutrients. But when the cells are using the nutrients and the oxygen, it's going to create waste. Just like any household, the house needs food, the house needs water and light. And from the family just living their daily life, they got to throw some things in the trash. Like there's going to be cooking, there's going to be eating, there's going to be trash left over. Well, the trash cannot just stack up inside of the house. Like that's going to be a pretty bad thing. And so the trash needs to be disposed of. The same thing with the cells. Your cell's going to create what they call metabolic waste. In order for it to run its operations, it's going to use the nutrients that were brought in. It's going to use the oxygen that was brought in. But it's also going to create metabolic waste. And that waste needs to be disposed of. We all know what happens when you have trash that's just stored up in your house. Like it's horrible. You're going to get sick then. And so for those trillions of cells, the thing that is actually bringing your cell the nutrient, bringing your cell the oxygen, is your red blood cell, your blood. So your red blood cell is bringing the nutrient and the oxygen to the cells. But not only that, there's going to be a mutual exchange. There's going to be a beneficial exchange. There's going to be P.E.A.C.E practice, reciprocity, where the red blood cell is going to give that cell what it needs. In exchange, it's going to take the waste, which is going to be the carbon dioxide, and it's going to be the other metabolic waste from that cell. That red blood cell is now going to travel back through your body, and it's going to travel up through the vein. Actually, now we're in the vein where we have the deoxygenated blood. We have the actual red blood cells that are carrying the waste, and it's going to go through the right side of your heart. The right side of your heart is now going to pump that into your lungs, and that exchange is going to take place where the red blood cells are now exchanging the carbon dioxide for oxygen, and now that red blood cell is going to go to the left side of the heart, and it's going to pump it back out through the arteries, and it's going to do the same thing again. And so you have this process that's going on in your body literally every single waking moment, or sleeping moment as well too. Like it never stops. No days off. Your heart, your body, your system is continuously working with no days off. Now, that's how that red blood cell perfuses. Now, that process is called perfusion. That process is called, that's your blood. Now, the blood can't move by itself, right? Like if blood is on the counter, it's just going to sit there. If blood is just in your vein, it's just going to sit there. If it's just in your artery, it's just going to sit there. However, in order to get it to move, you're going to need some pressure. You're going to need some pressure. And so your heart, your cardiovascular system, you got to understand, is 60,000 miles in length. In order to get an understanding of what that is, the circumference of planet Earth is 25,000 miles around. This means that we all have something in our bodies that can wrap around planet Earth 2.5 times around. And in order for that blood to move around that heart, it needs something pumping it behind it. And so that is your heart. And this is a closed system. And so your heart, every time it contracts, it's going to send off a certain amount of pressure. That contraction is what they call, the top number is called systolic. And so it contracts, and yeah, it might contract about 120 or 140. Nonetheless, the amount of force that is required in order to have a successful or appropriate contraction is called your systolic, and that is based on the health of your arteries. Don't miss that part, okay? How much force is needed in order to successfully push your blood around your circulatory system is based on the health of your arteries. When that heart contracts and it relaxes, there's still going to be a certain amount of pressure in there, because you can't just have you can't have the blood contract or the blood be pushed along with 120 pressure, and then the pressure goes back down to zero. The blood, you're going to be in a lose-lose. Like, you're going to be taking one step forward and one step back, and so you're not going to go anywhere. And so what the body does with that contraction of 120 over 80 or 120 over 70 is taking 3 steps forward and 1 step back, or you can say 4 steps forward and 2 steps back. But it's never 1 step forward and 1 step back. You're gonna be dead. Shock is what they call it when the heart's not beating at all. And so you have to have that type of ratio. Now, that is done so that the process can start over and over again. Now, let's go back to this where I said the pressure that your heart is going to put out is based on the health of your arteries. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? If this is your blood vessel, can y'all see this? If this is your blood vessel, and let's say you've been eating, well, I won't say. Let's say that your blood vessels go from being like this to now being like this. Are you going to have more blood flow, or are you going to have less blood flow? If your blood pressure was already 120 over 80, with an artery like this, 120 over 80, and for some reason, we'll talk about why, but for some reason, your arteries go from being like this to like this, and your blood pressure is still 120 over 80, are you going to have more blood flow, or are you going to have less blood flow? D-Tuck says less blood flow. You're absolutely correct. Now, I just told you about the needs of that household, right? I just told you about the house needs food. It has people living in the house. In order for these people to operate, it needs water, it needs air, it has needs. And if that household does not get its needs, people start to die, right? People start to die. I won't make a correlation to what's going on right now in society. I'll just keep it to this. So in order for those cells to survive, they need to be properly perfused. Your cells need a constant supply of blood flow. If at any moment or any minute that blood flow or that perfusion drops or decreases, your body is going to adapt. Keyword is adapt. It's going to adapt to get that blood to where it needs to go by any means necessary, because your body understands that your blood perfusion dropping too low puts the cell, not only just that cell, trillions of cells, trillions with the T, it puts that cell in danger. And so because your body's intelligent, and because your body knows more about itself than your practitioner in the system does, it has multiple mechanisms already set in place to adapt to the adversities that may come its way. I mean, come on, like, humans have been around for a while. You think that the body hasn't figured out a way to increase the supply of blood in the case that it might have a decrease in supply? It has. These folks, it has. It has. And so what your body's going to do when that does happen, your body's going to increase the heart contractility. Contractility means how hard it's going to contract. By increasing the contractility, your pressure is going to go up. So my kids just finished washing our car, right? And I'm watching them. You've all heard me say this before. So the two boys, my two sons are putting suds in the car, and my daughter is watering the car with the hose. Now, when she wants to actually get more pressure and she wants to get the sludge off the car faster, she puts her thumb over the actual hose. That makes the blood, the water comes out faster. Your body does the same thing. It doesn't put a thumb over anything, but it's going to do whatever it can to get the pressure up. And so we have vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction is when the arteries now go from being like this to like this. You have increased contractility, which we just spoke about. You have an increased heart rate. Your body will also increase the actual rate of the heart in order to meet the demands of your cells, your cardiovascular system. But also, your body has something called the endothelium. And the endothelium is the largest organ in the body. I know you probably haven't heard that before, but you need to understand that the endothelium is the largest organ in your body. If I just told you about the 60,000 miles of blood vessels that you have, what you need to understand is that inside of those blood vessels is something called the endothelium. The endothelium will be likened to the actual mind, the operating system of the arteries. And so the endothelium is the shot caller. The endothelium is responsible for telling the arteries when to vasodilate, meaning to make the vessels go from this to like this. It has the ability to make your arteries vasoconstrict, which means go from this to this. It has the ability to increase in the viscosity of your blood. Viscosity deals with the thickness. So if you look at water and if you pour water out of a jug, that is something that has a low viscosity, meaning that it is thinner. But if you pour syrup out of a jug or syrup out of a syrup bottle, it's going to go slow. It's going to move slow because it has a higher viscosity. And so if at any moment your body needs the pressure to go up, it has the ability to also make your blood thicker. But also there are other things outside of you that can make your blood thicker. So I'm saying all to say this. All that stuff I just explained, you got to understand that your body is doing that on purpose. Your blood pressure increasing is not an accident. Your blood pressure is increasing because there is a problem inside of your arteries. You may have plaque buildup. You may have stiffening of your arteries. You may have a blockage. You may have thick blood. You may have constriction. There are multiple things that you can have. However, what you need to understand is that your blood pressure increasing is not something that is doing just because it wants to be a jerk. It's not increasing because it wants to be a jerk. And it's not increasing because you don't have medications. So if there's a restriction, if there's a blockage, if there's stiffening, and you just throw a pill at it to block the receptors on the heart, to slow down the rate, or to decrease the contractility, tell me, riddle me this, Batman. At what point did you actually deal with the problem? What point? You know, they call it essential hypertension, right? Essential hypertension. 95% of people who have high blood pressure have what they call essential hypertension or primary hypertension. The other 5% have what they call secondary hypertension. This is because the secondary hypertension is when we know what causes your high blood pressure. You have something called renal stenosis, where the arteries leading to your kidneys are stenotic or very corroded and also stiffened. That's why you have high blood pressure. Or maybe you have a tumor on your adrenal gland. That's why you have high blood pressure, and the tumor on your adrenal gland is going to increase the catecholamines, and that's why you have high blood pressure. And so with the 5% of people who have high blood pressure, they have what they call secondary high blood pressure, and that is something that they can identify. We know why you have high blood pressure. 95% of y'all, we don't know. We're going to call it essential. We're going to call it primary, but we don't really know. We know this pill can now make you excrete more water. We know that this pill can now block these receptors. We know this pill can now inhibit this enzyme. And by doing those things, it'll get the blood pressure down. Now, will it actually treat the actual root cause of the problem? Nah, it won't. It'll get the blood pressure down, and it'll get your blood pressure into the optimal levels. Now, what you all need to understand is that when the term essential hypertension first came to be, this is back when they didn't have medications. And so I always recommend people read medical literature when there was no medicine around, or there wasn't much medications around. It's boring as hell to read, and it's also infuriating as hell to read if you're African American, or if you're just a person with a heart. It's infuriating to read because a lot of the testings are being done on you. But at the same time, when we're talking about essential hypertension, the term, I believe the doctor's name was Richard Bright. I could have that wrong. His name was Richard, but I don't know if it was Bright. When they came up with the term, they called it essential hypertension because they understood that the blood pressure that you're experiencing right now is essential for the body in order to keep proper perfusion. Don't let that go over your head. They weren't sweating the blood pressure being what they call high blood pressure at that time, because one, they didn't have medications, but two, because you lack resources or you lack medications, you'd be surprised with the lack of resources can make you, how creative it can make you. So they didn't have medications. So these practitioners back then had to really try to figure out what was going on. Like, why is your blood pressure all of a sudden high when last month it wasn't like that? And so they had to really do a lot of studying, a lot of research. And what they found was that this blood pressure that you have right now is essential for you to have proper perfusion to your whole entire body, your whole entire vascular system, your whole entire cell, your life. It's essential. So fast forward to today, they treat you with medications. And these medications, they're claiming that these medications are going to give you keep you in a healthy range. And so since your blood pressure is in a healthy range, you're walking around, whether they're saying it or not, but you're walking around with this pseudo belief, with this pseudo comfort in thinking that since you have normal blood pressure or since you have normal blood sugars, that you're going to be fine. And I'm telling you that that's not the truth. They're telling you about these patients that have COVID-19 and how they have underlying health conditions. You don't think these patients are taking medications for their underlying health conditions? You don't think these patients are taking medications for their high blood pressure? A better question is, you don't think a lot of these patients are taking ACE inhibitors, lisinopril, for this condition, or for their blood pressure? Once again, you should go look up and see how, what's the correlation between ACE inhibitors such as lisinopril and COVID-19. You should really look into that. You should look and see how the virus actually gets into the cell. You should see what receptor is responsible for, well, not responsible, what receptor the virus uses to get inside the cell. Like, that's important. You should also see which receptor ACE inhibitors or ACE receptor blockers upregulate. That's important to know. And also, people should know that. Like, once again, it shouldn't be a guy with a beard and headband sitting in my car telling you this very, very important information. It shouldn't be me. It should be the guy telling you to wash your hands 1,000 times a day. Also mentioning, oh yes, there's a couple other things we want y'all to look out for and we want y'all to do. We want you also to contract your practitioners. But it's not. They're not going to do that because these folks, they play golf together. So let's keep going. Now that we understand that there's a purpose for your blood pressure being elevated, now that we understand that your blood pressure being elevated is not an accident, now that we understand that that is an adaptation, your body's adapting to the adversity. You having blocked arteries, you having constricted arteries, you having stiff arteries, because your arteries shouldn't be stiff. They should have the ability to rebound. They should be flexible. But you having those things happening, you have to understand that is considered to be adversity for your body. That's considered to be adversity for your cardiovascular system. And so in the face of adversity, like everything else in nature, you need to have the ability to respond to adversity. When it comes to blood pressure, your body is going to respond to adversity by increasing the blood pressure. When it comes to the lack of blood perfusion to your trillions of cells, your body is going to increase the blood pressure. When it comes to insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, and your body has this oversupply of glucose and oversupply of insulin, and the insulin is trying to allow glucose into a cell that is already at full capacity, your body is going to respond to that adversity by down regulating the insulin receptors. This is not magic. This is physiology. This is your body doing this on purpose. And these folks know this. They know this. They know what happens when you give a person antibiotics over and over and over and over and over again. What happens? You have to now increase the dosage, because if you don't increase the dosage, guess what? The person is now antibiotic resistant to that medication because the body's going to adapt to it. What happens when when someone first starts out drinking alcohol, liquor? What happens? They're lightweight, right? They call them a lightweight. You take a shot, forget about it. It's a wrap. They tipsy. They over here talking to everybody's wife. You got to control yourself, dude. But when that person does it over and over again, what happens? They build up tolerance. So now that shot is nothing. Now they need 2 shots. And this happens over and over again. your body has what they call homeostasis. It always wants to be in balance. But after time, when the body sees that that thermostat or that balance has changed dramatically and consistently, it now has to adapt to it. But make no mistake, it always has its own natural body set point that it eventually wants to get back to. So when we see these things, you have to understand that if your body doesn't have the ability to adapt and increase the blood pressure, forget about it. There's no going to the emergency room. There's no going to the follow-up. There's none of that. You die. Your body doesn't want you to die, so it protects you by increasing your blood pressure. When it comes to type 2 diabetes and your blood sugar being high and your insulin levels being high, you got to understand that they're high because your cells, where the glucose belongs, is at full capacity. It's at full capacity because these folks have been telling you for years to eat 6 small meals a day. They've been telling you for years that, oh, the soda with no calories, it's no problem. The soda with low sugar, it's no problem. Go ahead, drink it. They've been telling you for years to go ahead and eat this and eat that and eat this crap. They've been misleading you for years. Like, talk about horrible leadership. They've been misleading you for years. And now you're seeing in the real world scenario with this virus that they have positioned you all to fail. They have positioned you all to fail. These folks are going, I'm trying to stay on track, y'all, but every now and then, because the pseudo love and care and compassion that they're presenting to you is frustrating to say the least. It's annoying to say the least. Because how do you have a country where 70% of the adult population has a comorbidity? Don't sit here in my face and tell me that health is your priority. When 70% of your adult population has a comorbidity, health is not your priority, bro. Sit down. When you have the youth from the ages 17 to 24, 50% of them cannot meet the criteria to get into the military. Health is not your priority. Sit down. Stop lying. It's not your priority. So when you piss on somebody's leg and you tell them that it's raining, that's what they're doing. They're pissing on your leg, and you're like, yo, you're pissing my leg. They're like, no, it's rain. Look up. It's rain. It's not urine. It's rain. That's what's happening right now. These folks are urinating on your leg. Excuse my language, y'all. They are urinating on your leg, and they're telling you that it's raining. That's not urine. That's rain. And if they keep saying it over and over again, unfortunately, we start to believe it. And that's what's happening with these medications. That's what's happening with this idea that they're so concerned. They care so much about health. If you care so much about health, trust me, you will have a lot to say about the very foods that will cause these problems that we're seeing right now. If you care so much about health, Flint, Michigan in 2016 will look very different in 2020. If you care so much about health, the areas that live in the places of red zones will not have such high amounts of lead in their water and in their paint. I'm just saying, if you care so much about health, certain things will have taken place in the policy. So please, miss me with that whole idea that you care so much about health. Like you're better. I guess they are better off sticking to talking about washing your hands, because they're definitely not going to talk about the fact that we all need vitamin D. They're not going to talk about the fact that you need to stop drinking the sodas and juices that they approved already with the FDA. They're not going to talk about those things. So let me get back on task. So what I was talking about was the protective mechanism. Think about how nefarious this is. They call high blood pressure the silent killer. Silent killer. That shit sounds scary, don't it? It sounds horrible. It sounds terrifying. The silent killer. Believe it or not, they also call type 2 diabetes silent killer. The reason why they say it's a silent killer is because you can have it and not even know it. You can have it and one day it'll just creep up on you, grab you by the back of your neck, and slit your throat. Like, that's how they talk about it, right? So that fear mongering. Now, what did I just tell you about high blood pressure? I just told you about how high blood pressure is something your body has decided is warranted. It is needed because of the unhealthy arteries, because of the unhealthy environment. And in order for you to survive, we have to increase the blood pressure. We don't want to do this forever, but we have to do it momentarily. We are hoping that you eat better. We are hoping that you move. We're hoping that you drink more water. We're hoping that you cut out the unhealthy foods. But in the meantime, we have to increase this blood pressure. It's the only way we're going to survive. And so I don't see that as an enemy. I actually see that as an ally. So the devious thing about this is that these folks have convinced you that your ally is a silent killer. They've convinced you that your ally is your enemy. They've convinced you that you are your own enemy. And I guess you can work that out, but they have convinced you that your natural physiology, the natural inner workings of your body, is the enemy. They have convinced you that nature is the enemy because your blood pressure increasing in the face of adversity, which is blocked arteries, is natural. That's what it should do. And so now that they have made you turn against yourself and turn against nature, you now have to come over to this man-made chemical called lisinopril, hydrochlorothiazide, amlodipine. This has now become your reality. This has now become your friend, your ally. But riddle me this, Batman. When you start taking those medications, how long you got to take them? How long are you going to be on this medication? How long are you going to be in the medication for diabetes? Is there a start date and an end date? No. No. And most practitioners won't even entertain the idea that you can get off it. Yeah, you got some of them that say, you do have some that will tell you, all right, yeah, get your diet better, start walking, and then we can start decreasing these medications. Salute to those practitioners. However, the majority of them, yeah, we're going to have to start you on this water pill. Yeah, we have to start you on the small doses of metformin. Yeah, we have to start you on a statin medication. And also, we're going to prescribe this medication to protect your kidneys. And then we're going to prescribe you this medication because you're not diabetic, you're pre-diabetic, but let's go ahead and get you on metformin anyway. That way you can not become diabetic. And what happens? The decrease in your GFR, your glomerular filtration rate, your kidney function, it goes down. It gets worse. The pre-diabetes that was supposed to be stopped by the metformin turns into diabetes. The blood pressure, which you're taking medication for, you now need to double up on that dosage. And so things just keep going on and on and on. It keeps progressing. I mean, this is an abusive relationship. It's a beautiful abusive relationship. And I say beautiful not because like the other person is treating you so great. The other person has convinced the rest of the world that they're doing right by you. What do you mean? Look, I got her a car. I got her a house. Like, yo, she living good. I'm taking real good care of her. I'm taking real good care of her. And the world's like, all right, yeah, she's good. She's good. Don't worry about it. She's good. But you know how you really feel. You know that you're getting up at night and you're having frequent urination. You know that you get dizzy when you stand up too fast. You know that you're having muscle aches. You know that you're having weird symptoms that you believe that's coming from this medication. You know that you're having all of these side effects and that you are the one that has to deal with it. So while the world looks at you and sees this nice house and sees this beautiful car and you in the nice gown and the shoes, and they also see the world is seeing that you have the perfect blood pressure, you got the perfect blood sugar, like, yo, high five, you're doing it, you're killing it. But the whole time you feel like crap. And the whole time you know something is not right. And the whole time you're wondering, like, how long can I do this? Like, I don't know if I can sustain these side effects that I'm dealing with right now. That's what millions of people are going through right now. This abusive relationship with this system that is convincing you that you can't do no better than me. Because that's, look, all right, can we talk? Can we talk? In an abusive relationship, what is that other person trying to get the other person to believe? What is the abuser trying to get the person that's getting abused? What are they trying to get them to believe? Trying to strip them of that confidence, right? You cannot do any better than me. This is the best you can do. Nobody else wants you. Like, that's what they're doing, right? Now, in order for this thing to work, they have to say it over and over and over and over and over. Essentially, they are scaring you to submission. They are trying to get you to believe this false narrative that they created so that you don't go. Because if you go and you find out, wait a minute, they kind of checking for me a little bit. What'd you say? Huh? My name? And you see, all right, like this guy or this female was lying. Matter of fact, you mess around and you bump into somebody who's a real man, who's a real woman, you start looking at the old person a little, you're like, you know what? He was kind of insecure. She was a little insecure. And it makes you start to question. And so it's what Elijah Muhammad talks about when you put the clean glass next to the dirty glass of water. And so what I'm telling you all is that if you're in this system, you're in an abusive relationship. You may not see it and feel it right now. I know. You may not. And another thing that happens when you're in an abusive relationship is that the person or the people that's telling you, yo, I think you can do better than him or her. I don't think you deserve that. I think you deserve better. What happens to that person? When Tina Turner's friends were trying to tell her, yo, you can do better than Ike. What happened? What did Tina, she flew off the handle. And so that's what happens. Like, Tina Turner will tell you better than anybody. She actually had a quote. I don't know the quote, but essentially when you're in an abusive relationship, you see anybody that's trying to help you or save you as the enemy, and it draws you closer to the true enemy. And so in this abusive relationship where everything looks beautiful, they got the big hospitals, they got the big clinics, they got the fancy devices, they got the fancy medications, they got the fancy procedures, and you feel scared. You don't feel like you can truly go out and do it on your own. And so you're like, yo, this is the best I can do. And things, it could be worse. And then here comes this loudmouth black guy with a headband on and a beard talking about they lying to you. And you can do better. You deserve better. Some are going to get mad. The other ones are going to be like, you know what? Yo, he right. We leaving. We out. So I'm saying all to say this. These folks have convinced you that your own physiology is the enemy. These folks have convinced you that your protective mechanisms is the problem. They have convinced you that your body doing and adapting the way it needs to is the problem. At no point do most of these practitioners deal with the real problem, which is the lifestyle. We got to understand. So the real problem is most of these conditions that I'm talking about: high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, obesity, pre-diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome. You have to understand that they're all sitting on the platform of what we call insulin resistance. Some people call it metabolic syndrome. At one time back, they called it syndrome X. That term doesn't exist anymore. There's a lot of good reasons why it doesn't exist. And when I mean good reasons, I mean criminal reasons. And so those things all have insulin resistance in common. Insulin resistance, what is it? Insulin resistance. So let's talk about what insulin is. When you eat food, the food that you're eating is going to be broken down into what they call micronutrients. So macros be broken down to micro. Macro would be the protein, would be the carbohydrates, the fat. Those things will be broken down into micronutrients, such as lipids, amino acids, and glucose. Well, all three of those nutrients need to be stored. So the glucose needs to be stored, the protein, the fat, all of it needs to be stored. However, these micronutrients just can't go around your body and jump into cells willy-nilly. Your body has systems. There's levels to this. Your body is so dope. It's so intelligent. These folks have completely rewired your brain to thinking that your body is just this big clunk of like clumsy parts put together. And that's so unfortunate because your body is so intelligent. So there's levels to this. There's systems. There's checks and balances. Nothing in your body is just happening without the body as a whole knowing about it. It's not happening. And also what you understand is that a lot of what you see going on in the government, not the back and forth, but just the chain of command. Understand that when you see chain of command going on in the government, or chain of command when you're looking in the military, they're getting that from your body. Like a lot of what we see in society in general is based off of how the body works. The cell phone, like, I know it gets a little weird, but a lot of these things are based off how your body works. And so you have a chain of command. These nutrients just can't go inside the cells. Insulin, which is an anabolic hormone, it is responsible for storing the glucose into your cells. And so depending on the type of food that you're taking in, if you're taking in whole foods, This process moves along slower and is more controlled because whole foods have more vitamins in it, more minerals, and it has fiber. And so it is a very natural process. It's a very controlled process. And also when you're taking something like processed foods, like Twinkies, donuts, McDonald's, the juices, the chips, all those things, it's chaos because that food is not real. The food is not real. And it lacks the vitamins, it lacks the nutrients, it lacks the fiber, it lacks the minerals. They might put it in the food, but you have to understand that there's nothing like the real thing. Shout out Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, right? Y'all help me out. Am I right? Ain't nothing like the real thing. Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. So your body is going to break that down fast. When it breaks that down fast, your glucose is going to shoot up. In order for your body to deal with that high amount of glucose and get it to where it needs to be, which is going to be the actual cells, your insulin levels have to go up as well too. Insulin is responsible for activating the insulin receptor on the cell and allowing the glucose to go into the GLUT4 transporter, the GLUT4 shuttle. And that's going to allow glucose into the cell. I told you about how the cells have needs. Well, the glucose is one of those needs for the cell because the glucose will now use that, the cell will now use that glucose to do its operations, to run its daily operations, this machinery. And so once that full capacity has been met, or once that cell has all it needs, it's now going to downregulate the insulin receptor. The insulin receptor on the cell will now decrease, meaning that no more insulin can go in. Your body is doing this on purpose because supply and demand. Once again, if the house already has all the food it needs, we're good. Like we have food to eat right now. We also have food in storage. We don't need any more food. Matter of fact, the food can't even fit in anymore. And so what your cells is doing is saying that we are at full capacity when it comes to glucose. We don't need any more. Therefore, we're downregulating the insulin receptors. We're making the intelligent decision to downregulate the insulin receptors. Please give the glucose to other cells that may need it right now. And that's what's happening. However, when you eat frequently, six times a day, when you eat unhealthy food, processed foods, foods that have a lot of sugar, the foods that have no nutrients or anything like that, then you're going to have that sharp increase of glucose multiple times a day. Now, that increase in glucose multiple times a day, once again, if the cell was already at full capacity an hour ago, most likely it's still at full capacity now. Therefore, the insulin receptors are still going to be downregulated. And so insulin is going to be outside the cell trying to find receptors in order to let the glucose go into the cell. And over time, if you keep eating frequently, snacking, drinking juices, drinking sodas, you're constantly bringing in glucose, which is constantly increasing the insulin. And you're constantly keeping the cells at full capacity with glucose. So once again, your body's intelligent. Your body's going to say, okay, these cells are at full capacity. We can't put them in there anymore. Let's go ahead and put them in storage. The storage in this case is going to be your liver. Your body's now going to store the glucose in your liver as something called glycogen. Glycogen is the same thing as glucose. However, glycogen is a more complex form of glucose, and it's a stored form. So your body's able to store more of that glycogen in your liver. The reason why it's storing it in your liver is because when you need more, in the chance that you're going to need more glucose, it's going to be readily available from that liver. And so the body's going to say, all right, all of this blood sugar that's in the blood vein right now, in the arteries right now, send it over to the liver. The liver's going to take it in. But guess what? Your liver has a capacity as well too. So if you're eating frequently, if you're eating unhealthy foods, what's going to happen is you're going to soon meet the capacity of that liver. Once you start to meet the capacity of the liver's going to say, whoa, hold on, y'all moving too fast. What we need to do now, since you are set on eating all throughout the day and you are set on eating the unhealthiest food and you're taking the medication that's giving me problems, it's toxic to me, what we now have to do is the glucose that I already have in here, the glycogen that I have in here, give me a little bit of time to turn it into fat and I can ship it out into the fat cells. Because once we start shipping it out to the fat cells, well, we can store fat all day. there's not really a limit to how much fat you can put on. And we all know this to be true. And so what happens is the blood sugar is going to start building up in the bloodstream. The liver is now going to start converting that glycogen and that glucose into fat and shipping it out into the fat cells. Now the blood sugar is going to start going into the liver. And so you have several things happening. You have new blood glucose coming into the body every 2 to 3 hours, because this is the recommendation of your American Diabetic Association. You also have the sugar coming in. The sugar is going to be going to the cells that can take it in right now. The ones that can't take it in right now, the rest of that sugar is going to be going to the liver. The liver is going to be turning that glucose into glycogen to hold on to in the cases that we need it later. The liver is also going to be turning a lot of that glycogen into fat so it can ship it out to your fat cells, because that's where you can have that final storage at. Because once you start putting it into the fat cells, this is what we can do all day. So it's kind of like you're putting it into a storage place, or you're putting it into your garage. Like, we can store a whole lot in here, like a whole lot. However, when you continue to eat frequently throughout the day, and the food is really, really bad, processed, you're going to put such a strain on that liver to the point where it's not going to be as organized as it used to be. I don't know if you all used to watch I Love Lucy. My grandma used to watch Nick at Night. She always kept the TV on. So a lot of these shows used to come on. This was black and white. I Love Lucy. There's an episode of I Love Lucy where her and Ethel, I believe her name is, they're working at this donut plant, or they're making donuts or some kind of pastry. And they're learning how to do it. You know, there's a process. So you get the box, I pull out the donut, I put on the cream, you put it in the box. You get the donut, I get the box, put on the cream, put it in the donut. Box, cream, put it in the donut, box. And so they had this process on the assembly line. However, the speed of the assembly line started to speed up. As the speed on the assembly line started to speed up, things started getting chaotic. And so they're still getting the work done. However, you got cream going on top of the box. You got some boxes that don't have the donuts. And so when you start overtaxing a system, the system is going to have malfunctions, it's going to have problems. And so when it comes to your liver, and you taking the recommendations of the American Diabetic Association and the healthcare system as a whole, and eating frequently, eating these juices and sodas that are supposed to be healthy, that are supposed to not have any sugar, drinking these diabetic milkshakes that are supposed to be healthy. They told you it was healthy. By you doing these things, and you doing it frequently, and thinking that you need so much protein, and thinking that you need so much of this medication, what you're doing now, the liver is forced to ship out the fat so fast that some of the fat is going to get stored in places that it doesn't belong. Places that fat does not belong is your pancreas, your liver, your heart. And when fat starts to get stored into these places that it doesn't belong, this is what they call fatty pancreas. It's a real thing. Look it up. Fatty liver, which a lot of you are familiar with, and fatty heart. When these things start to have fat infiltrated, the functioning is not going to be the same. The amount that you were able to, the amount of work you were able to do before is going to dramatically decrease. So, in the example of, I don't know, let's say pancreas, when you start to have a fatty pancreas because the liver is being so overtaxed with work, the amount of work that the pancreas can do is going to be decreased. What kind of work does the pancreas do? What does the pancreas do? The pancreas, well, one of its many functions is producing insulin. Insulin is the very hormone that we told you is a storage hormone. One of its many roles is a storage hormone. When you start to have fatty pancreas, the amount of insulin that you're going to be secreting is going to be lower. This is where people saw that, the system saw that, and they jumped on it and they exploited the hell out of it. And they started to tell people, your pancreas is burnt out now. So now you got to go on insulin because your pancreas is burning out or is already burnt out. We got to give you insulin because where are you going to get it from? However, that's not the case. For most people, their pancreas has a decrease in function because it has fat infiltration. The same thing with your liver. The fatty infiltration is going to make that whole process I just told you about even slower. And so eventually you're going to be diagnosed with what they call type 2 diabetes, or you might be diagnosed with what they call PCOS, or you might be diagnosed with high blood pressure. Why high blood pressure? Well, because glucose increases the viscosity. So high levels of blood sugar makes your blood thicker. And so if you have thicker blood, 120/70 is not going to be enough to properly perfuse that whole entire body. Not only that, high blood sugar, chronic levels of high blood sugar and high levels of insulin. Y'all ever had one? Everybody's had like a scouring pad, right? I don't know. Nowadays we use a sponge with the little scouring on the back of it. But back in the day, man, my mom, we had like this Brillo pad or whatever like that to scrub the pots with. And when we didn't have that, we would use the aluminum foil. Well, we use that to get the grit off. And so I want you to picture high blood sugar levels being like that Brillo pad. And I want you to imagine what would happen if you had your artery and you were just lightly, not going hard, just lightly brushing against your artery. What happens if you do it to your skin? Like what happens if you lightly brush against your skin with the scouring pad? Eventually you're going to cause an actual scratch and abrasion. You're going to damage the integrity of the skin. You're going to have a cut, right? What's your body going to do with that cut? Well, your body's going to mount an inflammatory process because that is the beginning of the healing process. So it's going to increase the blood flow. It's going to increase the swelling. It's going to increase the temperature. It's going to increase the amount of leukocytes. It's going to increase a whole lot of things in order to get that area that is open to heal. Well, guess what? Same thing happens to your arteries. That high amount of blood sugar and the high amount of insulin is causing damage to your arteries. You should not have that chronically. And so to just take medications to manage it is already flawed. And this is why people are still having the complications, because just managing type 2 diabetes is not sufficient. It's not sufficient to actually avoid the complications. If it's high, it's high. And you just managing it is not going to deal with the mortality and morbidity. So that process we talked about with the skin is also taking place inside of the actual arteries. And so when that healing process starts to take place on the lining of your artery and it starts to heal itself, you have to understand, you know what is a precursor to healing? Tissue repair? Can anybody tell me what does your body produce that is a precursor to tissue repair? I don't care what type of tissue you're talking about. The tissue on your arm, the tissue in your organs. Can anybody tell me what does your body make that is a precursor to repairing tissue in your body? I'll go ahead and answer it. It's called cholesterol. Yes, cholesterol. Cholesterol serves a purpose. These folks have sold you on this lie once again that there is a such thing as good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. There's no such thing. That is called marketing. Your body only makes one type of cholesterol, and that's called cholesterol. When it comes to the good and bad, once again, your body doesn't work on a good and bad system. In traditional African medicine, there is no good, bad. There's appropriate and there's inappropriate. Because what you find out is the thing that you're calling bad, well, eradicate it if you want. Get rid of all this quote unquote bad bacteria if you want and see what happens. The good bacteria becomes bad bacteria. Get rid of all the bad cholesterol if you want. The good cholesterol becomes bad cholesterol. There's balance. These folks need a devil and they need an angel. That's how they operate over here in the Western society. And so they have convinced us that cholesterol doesn't really have a purpose, but it does have a purpose. Cholesterol is a precursor for tissue repair. And so in order for that lining, that scratch in the lining of your artery to be repaired, cholesterol is needed to actually patch up that injury, that damage. And so this is where you see the cholesterol in the artery. But understand, that cholesterol is not there just to be a jerk. Like, it didn't just say, oh, this would be a good area for me to clog it up. It didn't happen like that. It's being called on by your actual system to go repair that area. And so when this repair process takes place, What do you think happens when the blood sugar and the insulin remains high? That damage that was there before is going to get re-injured. And so as you can see, that this is a process that can continue to go on and on and on and on. On and on and on and on. And if nobody is properly informing you that these things are being caused by lifestyle, then you taking the medications, you got to understand, you taking the medications, it essentially what it does is it ties your hands behind it back. It ties the hands of your body behind its back. Not only that, it actually puts, it ties your legs together as well. Not only that, it puts a bandana around your eyes so you can't see. And then it says, fight. That's what the medications do. The medications will wrap, you can't use your hands, you can't use your legs, and you can't even see what you're up against. And then it says fight. Because I just told you about the damage, right? I told you how the high blood sugar, the high blood pressure, the high blood sugar, the high insulin is going to cause damage to the artery, right? That damage needs to be repaired. Well, if you're taking a statin medication and it's lowering the amount of quote unquote bad cholesterol, which is the LDL, it's not even cholesterol, it's a protein, low density lipoprotein and high density lipoprotein. Like these are not even, it's not even cholesterol. It has cholesterol in it, but they're proteins. So when you don't have what you need to repair it, how you expect me to function, bro? Like you just took medications that decrease the very resource that we need. How are we going to do this? And when it comes to blood pressure, if I told you that you have damage and blockage in your arteries, and so a blood pressure of 120/70 is not going to keep us optimal, therefore I need to increase our blood pressure to 150/90, and you take this pill to bring it back down to 120/70, I'm going to let you know right now, we're not being properly perfused. That's why you can't stand up fast. That's why you can't do a push-up without feeling lightheaded. This is why you are urinating over and over and over and over. This is why you're having many of the side effects. Like that's what the medical community calls it. They call it side effects. But this is your body having its hand behind its back and not being able to respond to real life. It's not able to respond to reality. I hope y'all get what I'm saying. And I hope y'all share this video. Because this is information. If you're thinking that you're going to walk up in your clinic and get this information, or you're expecting like somebody who knows the science and who understands this and actually does this for a living, if you're thinking that those folks are going to tell you, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Good luck. Good luck. So what I need for us to understand is that ultimately our bodies are intelligent, self-healing, and self-regulating. The things that are taking place is taking place on purpose. The worst thing we can do is ignore the reason why these are taking place. Ignoring the reason why this is all happening and acting like a pill is going to solve our problems, you're going to get hustled. Not only are you going to get hustled, but they're going to make money off of hustling you, and you still are going to face the risk of the mortality and the morbidity. You're still going to be vulnerable to a virus. These things will still take place. And you know what their solutions are going to be? You know what the solutions are going to be right now when this whole lockdown is over? Like, you know what they're setting this whole thing up for? Moving into your communities with more of these little clinics that are connected to the big hospitals, because the little clinics are not going to be able to survive this. Like, the little clinics are not going to make it out of this recession we're going through, this depression we're going through, because their doors are closed. So if you had good practitioners in that community, they're going to have a very hard time opening their door. But not only that, you can expect these clinics to now infiltrate your community with these robotic practitioners who only are going to know protocol. They'll have the degrees, they'll have the accolades, they'll have all these medals and all these awards, and all that means is that I know these protocols very well. I have memorized what I'm supposed to do when A happens. I know I'm supposed to do B. When B happens, I know I'm supposed to do C. Well, what happens if A, B, C, and D, and H happen? Explode. Explode. Where are these mechanical practitioners at right now? Like, where are these mechanical practitioners at when real life happens? Because I don't know if y'all know it or not, but this is reality. The government not being able to get it together, that's reality. Them folks never can get it together. People having to do for themselves as far as providing food for their families, that's reality. That's how it always was. The chances of a virus coming in and making people sick, that's always been the case. That's reality. That's been the case for thousands of years. Like, all this is reality. However, what they have done is they have lulled you to sleep. Like, they have put society in a onesie. They have given it milk. They have swaddled you up, give you a pacifier, press play on the music tape, put you in a rocking chair, and started rocking you, lulling you to sleep. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. We got you. We got you. And the whole time they're lying. And you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe me anymore. Like, you can just look outside. How many of y'all got them stimulus checks? How many people have gotten the stimulus checks? And what's going to happen after that? Like, how do you have these people fighting over, how do you have these people saying, stay home, don't work, and somehow figure out a way to get money to get food? When you start doing stuff like that, when you start saying stay home on one side, we're going to give you money soon, eventually, one day, on the other side, and the money doesn't come, and you're still, it looks like you're trying to cause chaos to both sides. Like, it looks like you're trying to get that side to be against that side and that side to be against that side, because we waiting for those checks. Like, we would chill out if you would just give us those checks. So that's the reality that always was. Them folks could never get it together. And as far as I'm concerned, them not getting it together is a show. I don't think they want to get it together. Here we go. My tinfoil. I believe they want social breakdown. I think they want it. But anyways, let's get back to medicine, because you don't want to hear me on the social side. So yes, this is the reality I was. This is your body making intelligent decisions, doing what it's supposed to do to keep you alive. And these medications, they don't work. They are purposely they're purposely lying and talking about how much they care about society and care about the health of these communities and care about the black communities and the comorbidities, and how after this is all said and done, we have to deal with that. That is a dog whistle, right? Like, you may not hear it. You may not get it. You may be like, all right, cool. They finally going to treat us right. Cool. I know you've been beating me, and I know you've been cheating on me, and I know you've been stepping out, and I know you've been, lying and sleeping with my sister, but hey, cool. Now we're going to get it right, because you just told the world you're going to get it right. So I know you're going to do right by me now. Yeah, I don't see that happening. It ain't happening. All right. So let me get back to medicine, man. So what's causing the problem? What's causing the high blood pressure? What's causing the type 2 diabetes? What's causing the cholesterol, the obesity, the PCOS? It's the foods. It's the foods. It's not your genes. It's not your genetics. All right, it's not your genetics, because if your mother and father had type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure or any one of these conditions that we're talking about, and you now find yourself in the same condition, you have to ask yourself, do I eat like my parents? Do I drink like my parents? Am I dealing with stress? Or am I dealing with the same type of stress my parents were dealing with? Am I smoking? Am I drinking? Am I drinking dirty water that my parents may have been drinking, which the government has known about, but they have conveniently dragged their feet on this as if it's not a big problem. However, having lead in your water is a huge problem, and having lead in your paint is a huge problem. So do I live in the same area as my parents? Am I moving or not moving like my parents? So I'm saying all that to say this, is that the reason why you may have the same lifestyle condition as your parents is because you may have the same lifestyle. Not may, but you most likely have the same lifestyle as your parent. However, I challenge anyone to do the things that I'm about to tell you to do and be consistent with it, and still continue to have these same problems that your parents were having, if that's your scenario. So the foods are horrible. Yeah, the foods are horrible. The processed foods, where's Popeyes at? They told me not to bring that up. I was told not to bring that up. I was told not to be petty. But listen, I'm not being petty just to be petty. I'm bringing this up because there's a point. We need to let that be impressed into our psyche. Not too long ago, August, I believe. I don't know. I could be wrong, but a chicken sandwich was released by Popeyes, and no shade, but the community went crazy for it. We did a lot of promoting for it. We did a lot of free marketing, a lot of free promotion, and those folks got a lot of money. They got a lot of money, and so there's this thing called reciprocity. There's this thing called mutually beneficial relationships. This is where I scratch your back, and I know when my back itch, I know you got me. I know you're gonna scratch my back. I know you're gonna look out for me. Our communities are saturated with parasites. Our communities are saturated with parasites. And guess who's the host? Those parasites are silent right now. The Popeyes, the Chinese restaurant, I don't care what anybody has to say about that. These little chicken shacks, these little stores, the liquor stores, the gun shops, the pawn shops, those parasites that have taken from you, but we gave it to them. Like, we got to be real about that. Like, we were willingly giving it to them. But those parasites that were sanctioned, allowed to be in your community at that rate, because you got to understand that in other zip codes, in other areas, in other color-coded areas, that doesn't take place. Like, you're not going to see the Chinese restaurant next to the Dollar's place, next to the liquor store, next to the pawn shop. Like, you're not going to see that. That's not going to be allowed, because the policies, the government will not allow that to happen. But you, on the other hand, man, have a field day. Have a field day. Put that dollar spot right next to the Chinese shop that has nephrotoxic ingredients, which nephrotoxic means that it has toxins in the actual food that will down regulate or actually damage the filtration rate of your kidneys. And put that right next to the dialysis, because that way they can get treatment and then go eat, or they can eat and then go get treatment. And then put the liquor store right there as well too. Like, let's make this plaza very convenient for suicide. Like, let's make it very convenient. So anyways, the parasites are very silent right now, right? Like, the parasites, they're doing what parasites do, which is being opportunistic. So I don't have any questions for them, but I do have questions for us. What are we going to do? Like, how you just exchanged millions of dollars and exchange get nothing other than foods that will cause diabetes, high blood pressure, and XYZ. The very problems, the very comorbidities that are underlying this whole problem that we see right now. So you have these foods, these restaurants that made out like a thief in the night. You have little organizations around places that are doing things like rent relief. They're doing like food drives, like little organizations that don't have the money in the first place. Or you have churches that are gathering whatever funds they have to do the work for the community. Salute to y'all, because I know y'all ain't got it. I know y'all don't got it like that. You know who got it though? Yeah, I'm checking your pockets. Popeyes got it. The Chinese restaurants that was in your neighborhood, they got it. The liquor stores, they got it. Like, the people who was eating off you all year round, they got it. But you know what they ain't gonna do? They ain't gonna be there for you. Like, they got it for them and theirs. They're like, yeah, we got it for us. Like, we good. Y'all gonna have to figure that shit out. But when this whole pandemic is over, we gonna open our doors and please come eat. Come on, come eat. Come on. That's what's gonna happen. And y'all gonna have to make a decision. We all have to make a decision. Like, draw a hard line in the sand. You gotta understand, business is war. How you gonna feed me food you don't even eat yourself? I'm just saying. So don't overlook that. Don't worry about anybody's complaining about that, crying about that, talking about discrimination. Like, let all of that shit fall on deaf ears. Like, don't pay attention to any of it, because those folks, as you see right now, they are not there for you. Those folks who run those restaurants will not piss on you if you were burning right now. The community as a whole. So it doesn't, when this pandemic is over, for us to run out our house and go support them when the times you needed support, they're not there. Like when you was in the gym shooting basketball, practicing, nobody was there. Now your name is LeBron James and the whole world's there. Like, you got to know what to do. Now, of course, you're going to have some people who are still going to run out to them and going to still support them, and they're going to make it a whole big deal. But I'm hoping, I'm praying. I'm gonna put out a good prayer before this thing is over, that we do for ourselves. I'm hoping, I'm going to put out a good prayer that we have some very insightful and intelligent people in our community, in all of our communities, that says, hey, we have this building right here. Hey, we have this rec center right here. Hey, we have this church right here. We have plenty of y'all that know how to cook. How about this? How about we all take shifts during the days of the week, and we come up with the menu, and we also come up with the fund, and we pour money into that fund. And from that fund, we now, my phone's about to die, y'all. We now go out and go get groceries. We bring it back and we cook here on a daily basis, and we now offer $5 plates. I think we should do that because unlike those other folks, when crap hits the fan, we're going to be there for you. We see, it's like there's no more speculation about who's there for you. Who's there for you is going to be the people who's there for you right now. Who's there for you? They're not there for you. So there's no more speculation about who likes who and who's dealing with who. Like, there's no more speculation. You can see it right now. Adversity brings out your true character. Y'all, my phone's about to die. Hold on real quick. All right? Hold on real quick. If y'all hear my kids going wild, don't mind them. It's real life. Hold on real quick. What's up, man? Ah. I think it's about to die. Boom, we back. All right, so yeah, make sure y'all don't, us as a community, we don't miss the deafening silence. The deafening silence. I mean, like I said, salute to the organizations that are paying people's rent, the organizations that are paying people's light bill, the organizations that are offering food, the organizations that are just doing work from the muscle. Salute to y'all. Everybody else, when this is over, don't forget. Never forget. Never forget. Don't y'all forget. Don't y'all let them off the hook with this, man. Come on. I mean, I've been trying to shut these plazas down for the longest, but please don't forget. So anyways, how do we get these conditions? It's the foods. So I understand that the processed foods, these foods break down in your body. They don't have any nutrients. They don't have the vitamins, the minerals, the fiber, all the things that you actually need to actually sustain yourself, and also improve your health, to repair and to rebuild certain critical aspects of your body. These foods don't have it. And so the fast food, the processed foods, the McDonald's, the Popeyes, you all know what processed foods are. But not only the processed foods, it's the juices, it's the sodas. These juices and sodas, they have no value whatsoever. All right. I know that it says, has made with real vitamin D. I know it says made with real vitamin C. I know it talks about the things that it has added in it. But what I need for you to understand is that if your food has the ability to brag, you should run away. If your food can talk about, yo, look, I got 1,000% more vitamin C than I had last year, holla at your boy. If your food can tell you like, yo, we doing 6 grams of fiber over here. What's up? What's good? Those are the guys in the club that's just flossing. Yo, what's up? Woo! Mercedes Keys, what's good, ma? What's good? Oh, come on. Like, these are the guys that are bragging and talking, right? And so, you know what they say about dudes who always want to show off what they got? That's probably all they got, right? So what you need is the food that is the hearty foods, the foods that actually come intact with the fiber and the vitamins and the minerals, the food that came from the dirt, the food that knows how to work with its hands, the food that can put in work and got your back during adversities. Like, you need the real foods, the whole foods, versus the processed foods, the foods that are just sitting on the couch all day long and watching TV and can't lift up anything. Like, you don't need that. So the foods. Next, vitamin D. I'm always telling y'all about how vitamin D is extremely important. I mean, I'm sure you all are hearing more about vitamin D right now, and that's good, very good. If you have the book that I wrote called Done with Diabetes, you know that I dedicated a whole section to vitamin D because it's just that important. Vitamin D is not a vitamin; it's a hormone. It is critical for our health. It is critical. If you are African American, African descent, if you have brown skin, black skin, you have to understand. If you have the ability to tan, you have to understand that vitamin D is critical to you. The sunshine. Let me clean that up. The sunshine is critical for you. Now, can you take supplements? Yes, you can take supplements, but you need to understand that is supplementing the sunshine. Well, no, I don't even want to say that because that just seems wrong. That is supplementing vitamin D. However, you cannot replace what you can get from the sun. So even if you are taking supplements, please do your best to get out into the sunshine as much as possible. If you're concerned about sunburning, then use something like coconut oil or shea butter. Those are things that can help you slow down the absorption. But please get out into the sun, get out into the fresh air. You need that. You need that. You need that. Also, if you are having problems with sunburns, you feel irritated when you go out to the sun, we need to check your medication bag, because you have to understand that some of these medications make you photosensitive. And if you're taking medication that make you photosensitive, you can easily burn. You can have you're more vulnerable to having sunburn. So keep that in mind. Movement. You got to move. We're not designed to just sit around all day. We're not designed to just remain stagnant. We're designed to move. And movement could be just something as straightforward as simple as just walking around the block, walking up the stairs in your office that you work at. But you need to make it your purpose point every day that you get up and move. You know, just something as light as walking, maybe it's swimming, maybe it's riding a bike, maybe it's a full-blown workout. However, you have to move. You can't just remain stagnant or remain seated all day and expect to have good health. It's not going to work out. Next, your last meal. So I'm a big proponent of making sure you have your last meal before 6 p.m. For me, that's not going to happen tonight. I haven't even broken my fast yet. I'm still fasting. See, that's what happens when you fast too much. Like, I think I'm going to be hitting my 24-hour fast in an hour. And I'm not even trying to. I'm just trying to work. That's why my mind's working so fast also. When you start fasting, your mental clarity is going to be off the chain. Cheat code. But anyways, so have your last meal between the hours of 6 and 8, preferably 6, because it takes 4 hours for your stomach to empty out. The reason why you want to have an empty stomach before you go to sleep around the hours of 10 is because around the hours of 10 and 2, you're going to be in a anabolic stage. Anabolic means we're building up, we're repairing. We're doing that deep cleanse that the body needs, that so many people don't get. And so what happens from the hours of 10 to 2, if your stomach is already empty, your body is going to secrete a hormone called ghrelin. Ghrelin, when you listen to it, it sounds like grr. And so when your stomach starts growling, that's being done by a hormone called ghrelin. If you look at the first letters of ghrelin, GRH, growth releasing, GRH stands for growth releasing hormone. And so growth hormone is going to be secreted at its highest peak between the hours of 10 and 2. You know why people inject themselves with growth hormones? And that was such a big thing back in the early 2000s. It's because growth hormones, I mean, I'm not going to call it magic. It's just physiology. but there's so many benefits to having higher levels of growth hormones, even for women, with proper ranges of growth hormone when it comes to repairing yourself and healing and doing all those things that need to take place. And so that can't take place if you go to bed on an empty stomach, or I'm sorry, it can take place, but you won't be able to maximize and optimize how much of the benefits you're able to get from it. So I highly recommend last meal, 6 p.m. Next, 1 meal a day. Fasting 1 meal a day. I put them in the same category. I'm about to have my 1 meal a day pretty soon. So 1 meal a day, these folks have lied to you, misled you, hoodwinked you, bamboozled you, led you astray for years and years and years with no evidence whatsoever. Show me, please. Where's the evidence that eating 6 small meals a day is going to make you healthier, or that it's going to rev your metabolism, that it's going to help you burn fat, or that it's going to help you regulate your blood sugar? Like, show me some real evidence. Now, here's the caveat. Before you send me the article or whatever you're about to send me, most likely already know what you're going to send me. Before you send me the article, that article that you're going to pull up right now, I want you to go down to the references and the citations and the footnotes. And I want you to look at the contributing authors. That's what they call. They're called the contributing authors. And I want you to look at their disclosures. This is where people say, all right, I have financial ties to Nabisco. I got financial ties to Quaker. I got financial ties to XYZ. And what you're going to find is that these folks, lo and behold, I guess it's a mistake, I guess it's an accident, I guess it's a coincidence, but they have financial ties to the very food makers that make breakfast food. So once again, when you send me articles, do your best to make sure that it's not been paid for and bought by the very people you're trying to defend, because that's what's happening many times. Like, I've been not purposely going against the grain, but I've been going against the grain because that's just been the truth for so long. I've had to go through these things people are sending me, and people send me the same thing. Like, they think they're doing something different, but they're sending me the same articles that the other doctor sent me, that the other nurse sent me. And it's like, y'all doing the same basic Google search. But anyways, what you're going to see is that there's no evidence. There's no research. There is no benefit to you eating that frequently. They have been lying to you. And the cost that you pay is more food, because you got to buy more food frequently in order to keep up with that frequent eating. But also, you've been thinking that there's no problem with, even if you weren't doing 6 times a day, maybe you were just doing 4 or 5 times. Well, there's still a price to pay. Eating frequently is the advice that I would give someone if I wanted them to remain insulin resistant. Yeah. Because it is crucial, it's critical for your body to have that break in between in order for it to take care of what it needs to take care of, as far as digestion, absorption, assimilating the nutrients to where it needs to go, and to actually not have that resistance to the hormones that are present at all times. So please make sure you don't forget about that. What else? So those things will get you the results if you do them consistently. Also, you may need guidance when it comes to the fasting. You may need guidance to a lot of these things. And that's where me and my team can come into play with the TFL, 28-day challenge, the Fast Life 20-day challenge that we have coming up on Monday. However, you don't need us. You don't need us. If you are a do-it-yourselfer, like you're very good at doing things yourself and doing the research, then I recommend that you go that way, because it's going to be impressed upon your psyche better than us helping you out. However, if you are the type of person who needs the support, who wants access to 3 coaches, 3 experts in their field, and you want to have that support of 200 members behind you, rooting for you, pushing for you, praying for the best for you, then the Fast Life 20-day challenge is the best thing that you can get yourself into. And I'm talking about better than what a lot of y'all are getting at these clinics. Yes. So I highly recommend that for anybody who fits that, who needs those things, or who would like to have that type of support. Now, as far as everything else, these are things that you can go through and you can look at my videos. I have playlists on YouTube. I have plenty of videos on Instagram, Facebook. These are all things that you have. Please use. Don't let it just sit there. I made those things for the community. Have a free book called Done with Diabetes. Have a free book called The Blood Pressure Manifesto. Have a free course called The Truth About High Blood Pressure. And the list goes on and on and on. I have done a better job of being organized by using YouTube, and so YouTube has more things in an organized fashion. However, if you go to H-BAMN.com, H-B-A-M-N, you're going to find a lot of blog articles. You're going to also, if you look down my timeline on Facebook, you're going to find a lot of resources as well too. But the point is, please use them. So let me go ahead and get off, y'all. My kid's ready to play. I don't know how long I've been on here. Let me see. Hour 35. Okay. So, yeah, we don't miss any of those things. Please share the video. Also understand what I'm saying. Go back, rewind it, ask questions below. You can send me a DM. My DM is packed right now. But also send me a DM. But I need for you all to think about those things. I don't want to force anybody to believe anything. I'm not asking for you to believe. I'm just asking for you to think. Look at it from a very realistic standpoint and just think. All right. And don't just think about how it's going to affect you. Think about how it's going to affect the future community, the future generation, the babies. We can't have them coming into a permanent underclass when it comes to health. Like we don't want them to have, like, we're already struggling on the financial side. On the economic side, we're already struggling. We can't have the babies coming in as an infant struggling on the health side. All right. So we have to do this for us. We have to do this for them, more importantly. All right. So we got what it takes. This is our community, our responsibility. We have what it takes. If you want more information about the challenge, it's tfl28.com. The link is in the description. The last day to sign up is on Sunday. We start the challenge. We kick it in the doors on Monday, 27th. Orientation starts today. Sign up. Trust me, you won't regret it. You talk about love, compassion, and you talk about black culture. That's what you're going to get inside the community. Like, this is for us, by us, created by us. Check it out. All right. Love y'all. Stay safe and think. And I'm going to holler at y'all later. All right. Peace.